Hey guys, welcome to TechStorm Weekly. I am FitnessRegiment and I'm here with Paul from HiTechLegions. And we're just going to be going over some of the news this week. There's been a rumored GTX 980 Ti. There's been a high overclock of the Titan X. There's been a released version of the GTX 980 Hybrid from EVGA. We're going to talk about some early Direct X12 Performance reports, some new SSD technology, and a potential rumored AMD buyout. Okay, so Paul, do you want to talk about the GTX 980 Ti?
Sure, let's go ahead and talk about the GTX 980 Ti. I'm going to bring that up on my screen here, and it looks like we got this off of videocards.com, Alex, and basically what they're saying is, and now this is the rumor, that it's going to have more memory than the 980 Ti, and it's going to have a little bit less RAM than the actual Titan X. I'm not sure where videocards.com got their source from, but I hear that a lot of the rumors that they do post are true. Now, myself personally, I don't like rumors, but these specs look pretty interesting, and what do you think?
I mean, what I think the most interesting part is the price range, because essentially what this is a stripped down version of the Titan X, which is basically what they did with the 780 Ti. So we're guessing that's what they're going to do with the 980 Ti, and basically all the specs are identical except for the memory. So having a price tag that is $400 below the Titan X just doesn't seem right. Some other sites have reported $700, but VideoCard says it's $600. So that's the part that I'm a little confused about, because I feel like if they release it at $600, it might completely kill their Titan line in terms of sales.
Well, it may not. Basically, if you're looking at it, it's got 1100 megahertz. So they're saying it's going to have a core clock of 1100 megahertz, and it's going to have a boost clock of 1200 plus. Now, normally when they up the clock speeds, that means that it's not going to catch up to their higher cards. So there's got to be something going on with it that is going to, in a sense, make the performance be a little less. Of course, if it has everything but the memory, now we're still talking about we're talking half the memory of the card, but we're still looking at what type of memory. They don't have the memory specifications on here. Is it is it going to be 7,000 megahertz memory? Is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 5? What is it going to be? And at the price of $599, if you really look at their price stack, when the 980 came out itself, it was what, $499?
$549.
So $549, and it immediately dropped down to $499 though, quite so at $599, I could probably say that's pretty darn close, because NVIDIA has been able to lower their prices on the Maxwell processor cards because of the new fab that they're using with Maxwell. So we might see something in that range.
Yeah, I was thinking that basically those are the two different reasons I was thinking for the price to be this low and for a 980 Ti to exist in the first place. I think actually there are three reasons. First, they could be afraid of what AMD has up their sleeve with the 390X, or to their new GPU line for 2015 or even early 2016 is just not ready, or just not reaching what they were expecting from it. Or three, they've somehow really managed to optimize the production process for the Maxwell chip, and somehow they've managed to bring the price of production down, meaning that they can just lower the price of their GPUs.
Well, you're also looking at half the memory too, and that's a big difference. Memory is fair. When you're looking at memory, you're adding cost when you add memory. So now you're getting rid of half the memory. So based on their cost per unit, maybe that's the reason why it will be this low, because you have that. You have half the memory of the Titan itself.
Yeah, that is true. It's also based on the GM200. So that's
correct.
It looks like basically a little brother of the Titan X.
Exactly.
Now, talking about the Titan X, we can move on to the really insane clock rates that have been achieved by at the NVIDIA Corps, they say, or something.
Actually, this was by Kingpin from from EVGA. He's their overclocker, and he achieved 2 gigahertz on the core, and it looks like 8.2 gigahertz with the memory, and that's some impressive numbers.
Yeah, that is incredible. I think that is a world record for a single GPU setup, according to 3D Mark Firestrike.
Correct.
And I mean, that it's incredible because the Titans have never, from what I know, they've not really been that overclockable. Generally, because the Titans have a lot of power and their TDP is at 250 watts. So overclocking it would really be pushing the card's efficiency. So it's incredible that the newest Titan X, which is basically pushing Maxwell to the limit with 3072 CUDA cores, was able to clock to 2 gigahertz.
Well, I mean, these guys, they do this stuff for a living, and I'll tell you the truth. I've actually gone to a few of these overclocking things where they're doing CPUs or they're doing GPUs, and it's just amazing to see what they do. I mean, this probably took him 9 hours of work. He might have blown 5 or 6 video cards trying to get to where he was. So, I mean, it's a science. It's actually a business. These guys do it professionally for a living.
Yeah, he had to, according to this, of course, he used liquid nitrogen. It says that it's unknown if he had to increase the voltages. I'm guessing yes. Yeah, so he had a standard.
Let's see.
He had a
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to talk about the test bench because he has his 5960X is also overclocked to 5.7, which is pretty fast.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, well, let's move on to the new 980 hybrid that was announced by EVGA. Now, this was kind of expected, but it wasn't expected in this fashion. I mean, we didn't think that they'd add a backplate and a closed loop. It's a 120 millimeter radiator, and according to them, this drops temperatures by an incredible amount. Now, this is a very simple chart, so I'm guessing this is just marketing because according to them, it drops temperatures by, 25 degrees?
That's correct.
So, and it only costs $100. Now, I mean, for only $100, that's pretty much the price of a 120 millimeter radiator, but it does include a backplate according to the pictures that they have, which I think a lot of people really want from the 980. Can't find it right now.
Well, I actually saw this up close and personal at CES this past year in January. It's very interesting. It's basically, it's their hydro copper edition. It's got a great cooling system on it. Of course, what they're going to be doing with this one is you're going to be if you have an existing 980, they are going to sell this separately, just the kit, of course, which is $100. So if you want the whole system, you're probably looking at about, what was it?
I think $649. Yep.
Yeah. $649 for the whole system if you don't have the card. But if you do have the card, to go ahead and water cool it with the back plate and everything, and let's see if we get a picture of that back plate on here. No, that's not it.
I do remember seeing a back.
There it is. There you go. So now, if you want, basically what's going to happen is you're going to get the back plate, you're going to get the cooler with this, and so you could cool your existing 980, which is a good thing. But, EVGA, of course, when you're using an EVGA cooler, you probably want to buy an EVGA card. So they're very well known for their NVIDIA stuff. Okay. All right, moving over to the Direct X12. Basically, this is going to be the new standard here coming up when Windows 10 is released. And just so everyone knows, if you have a registered copy of Windows 7 through Windows 8.1, Microsoft will be allowing you to upgrade to Windows 10 so you could take advantage of Direct X12 also if you're a gamer. But FutureMark recently has just released. We can't say it's a benchmark. Let's call it a feature test. And this feature test basically tests 3 APIs. It tests the API for DirectX 11. It tests the API for Mantle, which is an AMD proprietary program. And it also tests the API for DirectX 12. Basically, what's happening is it's a low-level API. So with DirectX 12 and even Mantle right now, it's allowing the CPU to process more draws and send them to the GPU, so you're not going to get a bottleneck. And basically, when you're looking at it, what's going to happen is it should increase your performance for your video card, because it's not going to allow that video card to be waiting for that information to come from the CPU, so you're not going to get that bottleneck. So basically what this feature does is it sends draws to the GPU to see how many draws the GPU could take before it actually fails. So if we go ahead and just take a look at the specs, which we'll go ahead and put a link to the specs inside the video here, because then you can actually look at the white paper. But basically, there's an explanation on this in the 3D Mark guide now, and you could probably get this at 3D Mark's site also. But it actually truly explains what overhead is, what the bottleneck would be, and how they built it to actually not test, but in a sense, call the draws. So why don't you go ahead and talk about the benchmarks here that Gamers Nexus got there, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, the benchmarks are quite interesting because, I mean, the performance increases quite insane. I mean, it's over 10 times more draw calls than DirectX 11. Mantle also has very nice performance with the 290X. It was tested here at Gamers Nexus. We'll be linking that in the description as well. The one issue that we have with this is it's not really technically a benchmark, because it's a synthetic benchmark. We don't actually know how well this will translate into FPS yet. And the reason is because no games that we know of have DirectX 12 integrated yet. And I don't really think that is a common thing yet. So what we're seeing here is very synthetic benchmarks of basically just draw calls. This is per thousands. So as you can see, DirectX 11 has around 710,000. While DirectX 12 has over 7 million. Now, it'll be quite interesting to see how that translates into performance in real-life environments.
No, I agree. And of course, FutureMark did say, they specifically stated that this is not a comparison benchmark. It's just to test out your system on how it's going to handle specific stuff. But I'll tell you the truth. Me, as a computer enthusiast, I'm going to try to compare these things. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. So, that's the whole thing with it. Yeah, it's not a benchmark, but it is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm going to be running more benchmarks, and I'm probably going to publish an article on it and see what I could do. Now, I heard a rumor that there is a game out there that does have like a very small DirectX 12 API in it. So if I could find that, I'll go ahead and test it with that also.
Yeah, I saw some of the benchmarks. It didn't seem very reliable because they said that it's twice the FPS and that type of thing. And I just cannot see that. I cannot imagine that draw calls are such a huge bottleneck on the GPU that we just haven't been attempting to fix. Because as people say, more powerful CPUs don't really convert into a much improvement in terms of gaming, especially. And you see that in multi-threaded applications. Like you can get a 5960X and then a $100 CPU, and most likely you won't see too much of a performance difference. So it'll be interesting to see like what this actually all means in terms of the future.
No, I do agree. Now it looks like here, where was they used the G3258 and a 290X, and they got 7441, which is basically if you multiply that by 1,000, that's 7 million on a draw. And then let's go and look at the 4970, and it looks like it almost doubled there.
Wow, I didn't even read those properly. That is some performance.
Yeah, it's a great performance increase with the CPU, because you got to remember, now you're talking about a CPU that has 6 cores in it, plus 6 it's hyper threaded, so you got another 6 virtual cores. You've got 12 cores technically pumping that information out to the GPU.
The 4790K has 4 cores, I think.
Oh, no, that's the 47. Why was I thinking of 50? Never mind.
I think you're talking about the 4930K. But I think what shows that these benchmarks, if you want to call them benchmarks, are not reliable is the fact that Mantle did much better than Direct X12 with the 4790K, while with the AMD, it did worse. Now, this doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, it is only like a 10% difference, much less than a 10% difference for the G3258, but it's still a little bit strange. So I wouldn't take these benchmarks too seriously, and we don't really know what this means yet. But it's still interesting to read, and there is a little bit of an analysis at the bottom, but there really hasn't been too much about that. So I think we can move on to the new SSD technology. So
now, go ahead.
I mean, you, as well, you know a lot more about the 3D NAND technology than I do. I was a little bit confused about this because I thought that Samsung already used a very similar technology, but it seems that Intel and Micron have maybe a newer version of this technology. It's basically before, instead of stacking in 2 dimensions, they're now stacking 3-dimensionally. So that's why it's called stacking, and this leads to much higher capacity. And they're reporting that an M.2 could fit 3.5 terabytes of storage, and while a standard SSD could fit up to 10 terabytes of storage. Now, those, obviously, this might be 10 years ahead. We don't really know, and we don't know how expensive it'll be, but it surely is interesting to see that Micron and Intel have been able to push SSDs to the next level. What do you think?
Actually, I'm pretty enthused about this one. I definitely want to see what the price of this is going to be. Because you can't. I mean, we're talking about 3D technology, so you're stacking the stuff here, and you can't say, oh well, here's my 128 gigabyte SSD, and it's using this technology. I mean, you're talking probably they're going to start out of the gate at somewhere around 1 terabyte. That's probably going to be the standard for these, and then you go up from there. And then when you get into the 2.5-inch SSDs, I mean, what's going to be the standard for that? Is it going to be the 3.5? Start at 3.5 and work your way up to 10. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the prices are going to be, and that is where it's going to depend. That's what's going to make it either a consumer level product or it's going to make it an enterprise level product. And that's what we'll have to watch for.
I mean, if this makes it to consumer markets, I mean, they say expect these products to be available next year, but we don't really know what version this might be. I mean, these might just be tiny implementations of the 3D NAND technology. But if they really do have like an ace up their sleeve where they can increase SSD performance and SSD size to these reported 10 terabyte limits, that would really change the market. I mean, hard drives would become useless, and pretty much every company that is currently making SSDs would probably die out unless they switch to this immediately. I mean, this is game changing if they manage to release this to the consumer market with reasonable prices.
No, I agree with you. I mean, it is a game changer. It's something to look for. I mean, I really can't speculate in a sense on what they're going to do. I actually want to get a hold of, I'm going to try to get a hold of somebody from Intel and possibly Micron and talk to them about it and get a little bit deeper into what's going to be going on. Because it is, as you said, it is something that seemed to have been used before with Samsung. Mm-hmm. But this is breaking news because now you have 3 layers, you got 3 dimensions on it, and I want to see how they're actually going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they are in this quick article, it does mention that reduced cost per gigabyte. I don't know what they're comparing to or where they're getting these this information. I'm guessing it's just a guess, and because I don't see this being made yet. And they say that it is expected to increase performance and endurance for data center storage. So I'm not quite sure what market they're trying to get this to, but at the bottom it says the product will be available next year. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't really believe that such information hasn't been leaked at all, and that in 2016 we'll be able to see 10 terabytes SSDs. So, I mean, there's a lot of testing that goes into SSDs in terms of reliability and that type of stuff, and I just can't see Intel hiding this type of technology, especially when they're investing so much into their current SSDs. So I think having these released in 2016 is really an over-exaggeration, and I think it might take quite a bit longer than that to get these types of 10 terabyte SSDs to the market.
I agree. It's going to take a while, but you never know. I mean, you got to remember one thing that Intel will do if they're pushed by somebody is they will bring something to market quicker. And I'll be talking about that in a second when we talk about Samsung purchasing AMD. But Intel has been known to push something out when they do have the competition for it, because I mean they've probably been working on this maybe for 5 to 10 years already.
I mean, talking about AMD being purchased, we can move on to that since we really don't know that much about the SSDs, but we will update you. In terms of AMD purchasing, in terms of Samsung purchasing AMD, I mean, we've heard this before. I think it was, here it says back in 2007, there was a similar rumor, but it was just a rumor. And right now it seems like more of a leak than a rumor. So there's a big difference because rumors can be started by anyone. It could just be people thinking, oh, this might be a good choice. While a leak is information that actually comes from the company itself or from within the company. So here the article says it's quite logical for Samsung to buy AMD, but there are a bunch of hurdles with purchasing AMD, otherwise it would have happened already. So I'm not quite sure how they'll overcome licensing issues and things like that, because from what I've read, Intel could pull their licensing if they were to be purchased. So I'm not quite sure how that would happen.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. I think Intel likes the competitiveness. I'm not sure if they'll do that, because then you're talking about a definite monarchy on x86 type sales. As per Samsung purchasing AMD, would it be a good thing for AMD? Yeah, R&D.
Definitely.
AMD has gone stagnant over the last few years on their CPU end. I mean, yeah, I know that they have APUs, which are very good entry level systems for the entry level. You know, you get some nice processing power with the Radeon graphics, which of course, you know, AMD years ago purchased ATI, so now they're under their realm, and that would probably bring me up to the next thing. What are they going to do with the video card division? Are they going
Thanks for watching, guys. This video will be available on my channel, FitnessRegiment, and HiTechLegion. The links will be in the description below, and you can also check out HiTechLegion. They have a website with all these articles. I'll be linking every single article in the description. We're going to try to do it next week. We're not quite sure what kind of schedule we'll be keeping yet, but we're going to update you guys. It's all going to be in the description. So anything you want to add, Paul?
Yeah, I just want to say, remember everyone, if you could weather the storm, watch us weekly. Paul and Alex, have a great day.